Antifragile, Things That Gain from Disorder, by Nassim Taleb. A summary. Antifragility is the property of thriving in chaos, disorder, and uncertainty. It's not resilience or robustness, which merely withstand shocks and remain the same. Antifragility improves and strengthens through stressors, volatility, and even failures. In this book, Nassim Taleb dismantles conventional thinking about risk and stability, showing how systems, individuals, and ideas can use disorder as fuel for growth. From biology to economics to everyday life, antifragility emerges as the antidote to fragility, the quality that leads to breakdowns under pressure. Taleb's argument challenges you to rethink safety, embrace uncertainty, and turn your vulnerabilities into assets. You learn that seeking comfort and stability is a trap that leads to stagnation and decay. Instead, you must learn to navigate and harness chaos, recognizing its potential to propel you forward. Taleb draws on philosophy, history, mathematics, and personal experience, building a case for a worldview that thrives on unpredictability and rejects the illusion of control. Lesson 1. Embrace stressors. Stressors are not threats, they are opportunities to evolve, strengthen, and thrive. Systems that avoid stress inevitably weaken and collapse over time. Your muscles atrophy without resistance, your immune system falters without exposure to challenges, and your mind grows dull when untested by the demands of problem-solving. Taleb's assertion is clear. Stressors serve as catalysts for growth, not as obstacles to be avoided. Take the example of the phoenix from mythology, which rises anew from its ashes, more powerful than before. This cycle of destruction and renewal is not just a fantastical story, but a metaphor for how antifragility functions in real life. Without the fire, there is no rebirth. Consider this principle in the business world. Companies that avoid competition and stick to safe, stagnant strategies eventually lose their edge. Kodak, once the giant of the photography industry, refused to adapt to digital advancements, believing its dominance was secure. The lack of competitive stressors allowed complacency to take root, leading to the company's downfall. Contrast this with Amazon, a business that constantly seeks new challenges by expanding into diverse industries, from cloud computing to artificial intelligence. Amazon thrives because it embraces stressors, constantly testing and reinventing itself to adapt to an unpredictable future. Ray Dalio echoes this truth in Principles, where he outlines how painful failures and stresses are essential for personal and professional growth. Dalio compares life to a series of swings in a pendulum. When you encounter setbacks, the stress forces you to reflect, adapt, and refine your approach. This process isn't comfortable, but it builds wisdom and resilience. Imagine an athlete training for a marathon. The stress of pushing beyond their physical limits breaks down muscle tissue. But this stress is precisely what leads to stronger, more efficient muscles during recovery. Growth requires discomfort. Without it, you stagnate, whether in your career, your relationships, or your understanding of yourself. Now examine a parallel concept from evolutionary biology. The Red Queen hypothesis suggests that organisms must continually adapt and evolve. Not merely to gain an advantage, but simply to survive. This principle applies to your life as well. If you avoid challenges and stressors, you risk becoming obsolete in a world that constantly changes. Look at history. Civilizations that resisted innovation and clung to stability eventually crumbled. Ancient Rome's reliance on its military superiority without adapting its economy or governance to new challenges ultimately led to its decline. Stressors, when met with creativity and action, could have propelled Rome forward rather than accelerating its collapse. In your own life, stop running from stress and discomfort. You cannot shield yourself from the trials of life without sacrificing the opportunity for growth. If you avoid learning new skills because they feel difficult, or refuse to face interpersonal conflicts because they feel uncomfortable, you deny yourself the chance to build the emotional and intellectual strength needed to succeed. Instead, actively seek activities that force you out of your comfort zone. Take on tasks that feel slightly beyond your current abilities. Pursue goals that require effort, perseverance, and adaptation. Whether it's public speaking, learning a complex skill, or pursuing a career change, the stress you experience will be the very thing that sharpens your abilities and strengthens your resolve. This idea finds reinforcement in Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl's time in Nazi concentration camps subjected him to unimaginable stress. Yet, he found a profound sense of purpose in enduring and adapting to his circumstances. He argued that meaning in life is often found through suffering and struggle, not by avoiding them. In your day-to-day life, stressors are far less extreme. But the principle remains the same. It's through the discomfort of navigating challenges that you find the clarity and strength to pursue what matters most. The takeaway is unambiguous. Stop treating stress as an enemy. Reframe it as a teacher and a tool. Lean into challenges rather than retreating from them. Just as the phoenix rises stronger after the flames, you grow only when you embrace the heat of life's trials. Seek out discomfort deliberately. Run toward situations that demand adaptation and grit. And trust that these stressors are the very fuel that will ignite your transformation. Lesson 2. Decentralize power. Centralization is the foundation of fragility because it concentrates risk into a single point of failure. When one critical element fails, the entire system can collapse. And history offers countless examples of this truth. Taleb emphasizes that centralized systems may appear efficient and strong, but their lack of redundancy makes them dangerously fragile. Contrast this with decentralized systems, which distribute power and responsibility across multiple nodes, ensuring that failure in one part does not cripple the whole. Imagine a large, centralized bank. Its collapse can trigger economic crises that ripple across entire nations. In contrast, the failure of a local business or regional bank may be painful but rarely catastrophic to the broader economy. The ability to absorb localized failures without systemic breakdown is the hallmark of antifragility. Consider the financial meltdown of 2008. Large banks and financial institutions, tightly interconnected through complex derivatives and excessive risk-taking, created a centralized fragility that imploded when the housing market collapsed. The global economy suffered because too much power and influence were concentrated in too few hands. Now compare this to the decentralized structure of the Internet. While individual servers or websites may crash, the overall system remains intact. Its decentralized design allows it to reroute traffic, adapt to outages, and continue functioning even in the face of attacks or failures. The Internet thrives because of its resilience, a direct result of decentralization. James C. Scott's Seeing Like a State reinforces Taleb's argument by critiquing the inherent fragility of top-down control. Scott examines historical examples of centralized governments implementing sweeping policies that ignored local knowledge and nuance. These initiatives often resulted in catastrophic failures, from failed agricultural reforms to urban planning disasters. Centralized power fails to adapt because it distances decision-makers from the ground-level realities that require flexibility and context-specific solutions. In contrast, decentralized systems, like local governments or community-based organizations, can respond to unique challenges with greater agility and innovation. Apply this lesson to your life by rejecting the idea of putting all your eggs in one basket. If your career depends on a single employer, a single skill, or a single industry, you are vulnerable to disruption. The loss of that job or the obsolescence of that industry could leave you stranded. Instead, diversify your sources of income and skills. Cultivate expertise in multiple areas. Build side hustles. And maintain a network of opportunities that you can tap into when needed. Like a decentralized system, your life should be built with redundancies that protect you from unforeseen shocks. The same principle applies to your investments and finances. Diversification is a cornerstone of antifragility. Taleb highlights how decentralized investment strategies, such as spreading assets across different markets, industries, and currencies, reduce the risk of catastrophic loss. Compare this with the centralized fragility of relying on a single high-risk investment that promises great returns but carries the potential for ruin. Think of the barbell strategy. Taleb advocates keeping the majority of your resources in safe, conservative investments while taking smaller, calculated risks in high-reward ventures. Decentralization also strengthens your relationships and social networks. Relying exclusively on a single friendship or romantic partner for all emotional support creates a fragile dynamic. Instead, cultivate a diverse social circle of friends, family, colleagues, and mentors who can offer different perspectives and support. Decentralized relationships ensure that no single breakdown leaves you isolated and vulnerable. This idea mirrors the strength of ecosystems, where biodiversity creates stability and resilience. When one species declines, others step in to fill the gap, maintaining the balance of the system. History reinforces the importance of decentralization. Ancient Rome centralized its military and administrative power to maintain its empire, but this very concentration made it unable to respond to multiple threats simultaneously. When barbarian invasions, internal corruption, and economic stagnation struck, the empire crumbled. In contrast, the decentralized governance of the Greek city-states allowed individual regions to adapt and survive even when others fell. Decentralization provides a buffer against total collapse, whether in nations, businesses, or personal lives. Your takeaway is clear. Decentralize your life, your decisions, and your dependencies. Avoid reliance on any single source of income, power, or support. Diversify your skills, investments, and relationships. Build a system of redundancies that allows you to absorb failure in one area without losing momentum. Decentralization makes you adaptable, resilient, and positioned to thrive even in the face of disruptions. Build a life where no single point of failure can take you down. Lesson 3. Skin in the game. Skin in the game is the ultimate test of accountability and integrity. When you bear the consequences of your actions, you make better decisions because you have a personal stake in the outcome. Taleb emphasizes that systems and individuals function best when their risks and rewards are aligned. This principle has deep roots in history, as seen in Hammurabi's Code. In ancient Babylon, builders were held accountable for the integrity of their structures. If a house collapsed and caused harm, the builder faced severe consequences, even death. This system ensured that architects and craftsmen prioritized quality and precision because their lives depended on it. The stakes could not have been clearer, and as a result, responsibility sharpened their judgment and reinforced their commitment to excellence. Contrast this with the 2008 financial crisis, a modern case study in the absence of skin in the game. Decision-makers at major financial institutions took reckless risks, knowing they wouldn't personally bear the fallout. They offloaded the consequences of their actions onto taxpayers who bailed out failing banks and onto millions of ordinary people who lost homes, jobs, and savings. Executives walked away with bonuses, shielded from accountability by a system designed to insulate them from the very risks they created. This lack of alignment between actions and consequences is fragility in its purest form, a system doomed to repeat its mistakes because those at the top suffer no personal cost for failure. The lesson applies beyond finance or construction. It's relevant in every aspect of your life. Take relationships as an example. When you avoid accountability for your actions, whether in friendships, family dynamics, or romantic partnerships, you create fragility. If you consistently blame others or evade responsibility for conflicts, you erode trust and weaken the foundation of those relationships. However, when you accept responsibility for your mistakes and commit to improving, you foster resilience and strengthen the bond. Responsibility, though uncomfortable, forces you to grow and ensures that your actions align with your values. The principle of skin in the game extends to leadership. A leader who asks others to take risks without sharing in those risks loses credibility and weakens their team. History offers a stark contrast in leadership styles during war. Alexander the Great fought alongside his soldiers, sharing their hardships and dangers. His willingness to put his life on the line inspired loyalty and commitment, cementing his legacy as one of history's greatest generals. In contrast, leaders who remain distant from the consequences of their decisions, like commanders issuing orders from safety while their troops face the dangers, undermine morale and trust. Skin in the game also applies to innovation and entrepreneurship. Consider Elon Musk, who has consistently invested his personal wealth into ventures like Tesla and SpaceX. Musk's willingness to risk his own resources, including using his money to keep Tesla afloat during critical periods, demonstrates true skin in the game. This alignment between his vision and his personal stakes inspires confidence among investors, employees, and customers. By contrast, many corporate executives manage companies with no personal financial stakes in the organization's success, focusing on short-term gains at the expense of long-term stability. This principle finds parallels in Nassim Taleb's own life. He openly criticizes scholars, bureaucrats, and commentators who make predictions or decisions without bearing any risk. Academics and policymakers who theorize about societal improvements without experiencing the outcomes of their ideas contribute to fragility. Taleb himself has structured his career to ensure that he bears the consequences of his convictions, from his investment strategies to his outspoken criticisms. His approach is a model for living authentically and responsibly. In your own life, having skin in the game means taking full ownership of your decisions. If you want to achieve excellence in your career, don't rely solely on external rewards or blame external circumstances for failure. Invest your time, energy, and resources into your goals. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, don't expect others to take risks on your behalf while you remain insulated. Put your reputation and resources on the line to demonstrate your commitment and belief in your vision. Similarly, in personal growth, you cannot outsource responsibility. If you want to improve your health, relationships, or skills, you must do the work yourself and accept the outcomes, good or bad. The takeaway is simple. Align your actions with their consequences. Never let others shoulder the burden of your decisions while you enjoy the rewards. Take responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable or risky, because this alignment sharpens your judgment and reinforces your commitment to excellence. Skin in the game is not just about accountability, it's about integrity, authenticity, and the courage to face the outcomes of your choices head-on. Lesson 4. Avoid predictive illusions. The future is inherently unknowable. Yet, people cling to predictions as if they offer control over uncertainty. Taleb exposes the hubris of prediction, showing how economists, planners, and experts often fail to account for the unpredictable nature of reality. Their models and forecasts, though precise and sophisticated, collapse when confronted with the complexity of real-world events. The 2008 financial crisis is a striking example. Financial institutions relied on risk models that failed to anticipate the housing market's collapse, leading to one of the most devastating economic downturns in history. The problem wasn't merely a lack of data. It was the illusion that the future could be tamed through prediction. Taleb argues that rather than seeking to predict, you must prepare to adapt. The obsession with forecasting stems from a deep-seated human need to feel in control. Economists, weather forecasters, and even political analysts present predictions as authoritative, giving you the false impression that the future is a puzzle that can be solved. Philip Tetlock's superforecasting reinforces this critique, showing that even the most skilled forecasters struggle to achieve consistent accuracy. Tetlock's research found that experts are often no better than random chance in their long-term predictions, despite their credentials and confidence. This failure is not due to incompetence, but to the inherent chaos of the systems they attempt to predict. The world is governed by randomness, not linearity, and any attempt to impose certainty on it is doomed to fail. Historical examples amplify this lesson. The Titanic was designed to be unsinkable, yet it sank on its maiden voyage because engineers and planners failed to account for the possibility of multiple simultaneous failures. Similarly, Napoleon's invasion of Russia unraveled due to unpredictable factors like weather and supply chain issues, which no amount of strategic forecasting could have controlled. These examples remind you that predictive models, no matter how sophisticated, are blind to the black swans, rare, high-impact events that reshape the course of history. The antidote to predictive illusions is adaptability, not foresight. Instead of relying on forecasts, build optionality into your decisions and systems. Optionality gives you the freedom to pivot, adjust, and thrive no matter what the future brings. Taleb draws from financial strategies to illustrate this point. Rather than attempting to predict market trends, successful investors diversify their portfolios to mitigate risk and capitalize on unexpected opportunities. The barbell strategy, placing the majority of your resources in safe assets while taking calculated risks with a smaller portion, is a prime example of how optionality thrives in uncertainty. This principle applies beyond finance. In your career, avoid locking yourself into a single path based on predictions about industry trends or job security. Instead, cultivate diverse skills and experiences that allow you to adapt to changing circumstances. For example, someone who learns coding, project management, and creative problem-solving has more options in a dynamic job market than someone who specializes narrowly in a single field. This adaptability is your safeguard against the unpredictable shifts that render rigid plans obsolete. Optionality is also evident in nature. Consider evolution, which operates not through prediction, but through variation and adaptability. Species survive and thrive by experimenting with traits that may prove advantageous in unpredictable environments. A bird species with a variety of beak shapes is more likely to adapt to food shortages than one with a single type of beak. You, too, must embrace this principle of flexibility, preparing for a range of possibilities rather than betting on one predicted outcome. Taleb compares this mindset to the ancient Stoics, who prepared themselves mentally for adverse events instead of relying on the illusion of control. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, often reflected on the unpredictability of life, reminding himself to focus on what he could control, his responses and adaptability, rather than wasting energy on futile attempts to foresee or prevent every possible outcome. The Stoic approach mirrors Taleb's emphasis on thriving in uncertainty by focusing on resilience and preparedness over prediction. Your takeaway is simple yet powerful. Abandon the need to predict the future and focus on creating systems that allow you to adapt to whatever it brings. Build optionality in every area of your life. Diversify your investments. Learn a variety of skills, and remain open to new opportunities. Stop placing your faith in forecasts and models. Instead, position yourself to benefit from randomness and chaos. The world is uncertain, but your capacity to adapt is limitless. Lesson 5. Love the barbell strategy. The barbell strategy is a powerful framework for navigating uncertainty, one that combines the stability of extreme conservatism with the potential of calculated risk-taking. Taleb's concept rejects mediocrity and middle-ground approaches, which leave you exposed to unnecessary fragility without significant upside. By anchoring the majority of your resources in safe, stable options while allocating a smaller portion to high-risk, high-reward opportunities, you create a system that is resilient to shocks, yet capable of benefiting from unpredictable gains. Taleb demonstrates this through his investment portfolio, where he keeps 85–90% of his funds in ultra-safe assets like government bonds and uses the remaining 10–15% for speculative ventures that could deliver exponential returns. This dual approach ensures survival in the face of disasters while leaving room for innovation and growth. This principle is not confined to finance. It's a mindset applicable to every aspect of your life. Tim Ferriss echoes this idea in The 4-Hour Workweek, where he advocates for a lifestyle design that balances safety with bold experimentation. Ferriss suggests maintaining a steady income source or routine as a foundation while simultaneously pursuing bold, unconventional projects that could yield transformative results. For example, keeping your day job while building a side hustle or investing time in learning a new skill is a barbell approach. You mitigate risk by preserving your stability, but still allow yourself the freedom to explore paths that could lead to extraordinary success. History and innovation are filled with barbell strategies in action. Consider Thomas Edison, who maintained the stability of his laboratory operations while taking bold, calculated risks with his inventions. His work on the electric light bulb was far from guaranteed to succeed, but the safe foundation of his existing work enabled him to take that leap. The payoff was monumental, proving that a combination of security and boldness often produces the most significant breakthroughs. The barbell strategy also appears in nature. Think of species that adopt dual strategies for survival and reproduction. Certain plants produce a majority of seeds that germinate immediately in stable conditions, while retaining a small percentage as dormant seeds capable of surviving extreme environmental changes. This evolutionary approach mirrors the barbell's blend of stability and optionality, allowing the species to thrive regardless of environmental volatility. Apply this strategy in your own life by dividing your energy, time, and resources between stability and risk. In your career, maintain a steady job or reliable income source as your conservative base. Simultaneously, devote time to high-potential experiments like pursuing a side business, developing a new skill, or launching a creative project. This balance allows you to experiment without jeopardizing your financial security. If your side hustle fails, your stability remains intact. If it succeeds, you unlock opportunities for exponential growth. In your personal finances, the barbell strategy means combining conservative investments like index funds or savings accounts with speculative ventures in startups or cryptocurrencies. Avoid spreading yourself thin across mid-level risk options that neither secure your stability nor offer significant upside. Instead, polarize your approach by ensuring that the majority of your portfolio protects you from loss, while the smaller, calculated risks position you to benefit from unexpected gains. This strategy extends to how you manage your time and priorities. For example, dedicate most of your daily schedule to productive, low-risk tasks that sustain your routines and responsibilities. Reserve a smaller portion for high-risk, high-reward pursuits, like creating art, brainstorming disruptive business ideas, or building relationships with influential people. This polarization of effort maximizes your efficiency while still allowing for transformative possibilities. The lesson here is to embrace the barbell strategy as a guiding principle. Avoid the trap of mediocrity, which leaves you vulnerable to both failure and missed opportunities. Instead, polarize your approach by anchoring yourself in safety while reaching boldly toward high-potential outcomes. The barbell gives you the freedom to innovate without fear of catastrophic loss. By applying this strategy to your finances, career, and personal development, you create a life that is both resilient to shocks and open to serendipity. Lesson 6. Reject fragile comforts. Comfort is a seductive trap that breeds dependency and fragility. Taleb warns that the pursuit of stability and ease creates systems, individuals, and societies that crumble when exposed to challenges. The more you rely on comfort, the more fragile you become, unable to adapt to unexpected changes or disruptions. Taleb uses the analogy of wild versus domesticated animals to illustrate this point. A zoo animal may enjoy a predictable existence, with regular meals and shelter, but it is completely unprepared to survive in the wild. In contrast, a wild animal, though exposed to hardship and uncertainty, develops resilience and the skills necessary for survival. Comfort might feel secure, but it is a cage that leaves you vulnerable to the chaos of the real world. This principle applies not only to animals but to human life in all its forms. People who avoid discomfort often limit their growth. Consider someone who stays in a dead-end job because it feels stable, or someone who avoids challenging conversations in relationships to keep the peace. These decisions might seem wise in the short term, but create fragility by fostering dependency on the status quo. When circumstances inevitably change, a job loss, a relationship breakdown, or an unexpected life event, those who cling to comfort are left ill-equipped to respond. Rolf Potts's vagabonding reinforces Taleb's argument by celebrating the virtues of discomfort as a path to personal growth and freedom. Potts encourages embracing the unpredictability of long-term travel, where the absence of rigid plans forces you to adapt and thrive in unfamiliar environments. Travelers who immerse themselves in new cultures, face language barriers, and navigate foreign systems develop a flexibility and self-reliance that those who cling to controlled routines never achieve. Vagabonding is not just about travel. It's a philosophy of rejecting the fragile comforts of routine in favor of the strength that comes from embracing the unknown. Historical examples further underscore the dangers of comfort. Ancient Rome, at the height of its power, became increasingly reliant on its wealth and stability. The empire's dependence on a comfortable status quo made it fragile, unable to respond effectively to external pressures like barbarian invasions or internal decay. By contrast, societies that embraced hardship and adaptability, such as the nomadic Mongols under Genghis Khan, thrived in environments of uncertainty and unpredictability. Their resilience came not from comfort, but from the necessity to adapt to harsh conditions. In your own life, the call to reject fragile comforts is a challenge to embrace discomfort as a tool for growth. This doesn't mean recklessly seeking hardship, but intentionally stepping outside your comfort zone to develop the skills, mindset, and resilience that prepare you for the unexpected. Learn a new skill that intimidates you, move to a place where you don't know anyone, or tackle a daunting project that forces you to stretch your abilities. Each time you venture into discomfort, you grow stronger and less reliant on the fragile comforts of stability. The gym is a perfect metaphor for this principle. Muscles grow only when subjected to stress and resistance. If you avoid challenging workouts, opting instead for comfortable routines, you plateau and fail to build strength. The same principle applies to your mind and spirit. When you seek intellectual and emotional challenges, whether through difficult conversations, solving complex problems, or pursuing ambitious goals, you develop the antifragility needed to handle life's unpredictability. Even in financial and professional decisions, rejecting comfort is key. Sticking to a single career path or relying on one source of income may feel secure, but it leaves you vulnerable to disruption. By diversifying your skills and income streams, you create a buffer against economic instability. Taking calculated risks, such as starting a side business or investing in yourself through education, may feel uncomfortable, but they build a foundation of resilience that no single setback can destroy. Your task is clear. Stop chasing comfort and start seeking growth. Recognize comfort for what it is: a fragile illusion of security that leaves you unprepared for life's challenges. Push yourself to embrace discomfort, face new challenges, and venture into the unknown. The more you expose yourself to controlled doses of discomfort, the stronger, more adaptable, and less fragile you become. Comfort is a trap. Resilience is your freedom. Lesson 7. Learn via subtraction. Growth often feels like a process of addition. More skills, more resources, more tools. But Taleb challenges this notion, arguing that antifragility thrives through subtraction, not accumulation. By identifying and removing weaknesses, you create systems, processes, and even personal habits that are stronger and more resilient. Nature exemplifies this principle through evolution, where maladaptations are systematically eliminated, allowing species to thrive in changing environments. Progress is not about adding complexity, but about shedding what doesn't work. This same principle can transform your approach to personal and professional growth. Cut what weakens you, and you'll reveal your potential. Michelangelo's famous quip about sculpting illustrates this beautifully. When asked how he created his masterpieces, he replied that he simply chipped away everything that wasn't the statue. This act of subtraction, of removing excess marble, mirrors how antifragility emerges when you focus on eliminating inefficiencies and interactions and vulnerabilities. The art of growth lies not in piling on more, but in taking away what obscures the essential. This concept aligns with Greg McKeown's essentialism, which advocates for a disciplined pursuit of less to amplify what truly matters. McKeown suggests that clarity and success come not from doing more, but from cutting away the trivial, the distracting, and the unnecessary. Consider this principle in the context of your own habits and routines. Suppose you struggle with time management. Adding new tools, apps, or techniques might seem like the solution, but often the problem lies in your existing commitments and distractions. By subtracting low-value tasks, saying no to unnecessary obligations, and eliminating digital clutter, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters. Subtraction doesn't just make your schedule lighter. It sharpens your focus, allowing you to dedicate your energy to high-impact efforts. The power of subtraction extends to relationships. Toxic or draining relationships act as fragilities in your social and emotional framework. Instead of spreading yourself thin trying to maintain every connection, focus on eliminating those that weaken you. Surround yourself with people who challenge and inspire you, and cut ties with those who drain your energy or hinder your progress. This doesn't mean rejecting people lightly, but recognizing when certain connections are doing more harm than good. Subtraction, in this sense, is an act of self-preservation and empowerment. In the business world, subtraction is often the key to innovation. Apple's minimalist product design philosophy demonstrates this principle. The iPhone's success stems not from adding endless features, but from removing complexity, creating an elegant, user-friendly device that focuses on essential functionality. Steve Jobs famously emphasized saying no to 1,000 things to concentrate on what truly matters. This approach to product design reflects the same evolutionary process Taleb highlights. The removal of weaknesses and redundancies leads to strength and clarity. History provides further evidence of the power of subtraction. The fall of overextended empires, like the British Empire, often resulted from the inability to let go of costly and unnecessary endeavors. By contrast, nations or organizations that focused on simplifying and streamlining their efforts often emerged stronger. During the Great Depression, for example, companies that pared down their operations to focus on core competencies survived, while those that tried to maintain sprawling, inefficient structures collapsed. Apply this lesson by performing a personal audit. Identify habits, processes, or relationships that drain your energy, time, and resources without adding value. Perhaps it's a habit of procrastination that undermines your productivity, or a commitment to projects that no longer align with your goals. Start subtracting. Focus on removing the weakest links in your life rather than adding new layers of complexity. With every subtraction, you'll find more space, clarity, and energy to focus on what truly matters. Your takeaway is clear. Growth doesn't always come from addition. Learning via subtraction requires you to examine your life, identify the unnecessary, and have the discipline to let it go. By removing what weakens you, you make room for strength, clarity, and resilience. The process may feel uncomfortable, but every chip you carve away reveals the masterpiece within. Lesson 8. Seek variation. Variation is the engine of growth and adaptability, the very essence of antifragility. Taleb shows that exposure to randomness and diversity fosters resilience and innovation, while uniformity breeds fragility. Nature serves as the ultimate proof. Species that evolve through exposure to varied environments thrive over time, while those limited to uniform conditions face extinction when those conditions change. Taleb contrasts this dynamic adaptability with the rigidity of Soviet-era central planning, where an obsession with uniformity led to systemic failures. In ecosystems, economies, and your personal life, variation is what allows for evolution, improvement, and survival in the face of the unexpected. Consider how organisms evolve. A species exposed to a variety of environments develops a broader range of traits, increasing its chances of survival. A polar bear thrives in the Arctic, but its specialization makes it vulnerable to a warming climate. Meanwhile, more adaptable species like rats or cockroaches flourish in diverse conditions. This principle extends beyond biology. In innovation, companies that experiment with varied strategies and ideas adapt to market changes far better than those that rigidly adhere to a single approach. Think of Google, whose culture encourages employees to dedicate time to side projects. This embrace of variation has led to the development of groundbreaking products like Gmail and Google Maps. Taleb contrasts this evolutionary success with the catastrophic failures of central planning. Soviet-era policies, driven by an obsession with uniformity and control, imposed rigid agricultural and industrial plans across diverse regions. By ignoring local variations in climate, soil, and resources, these policies caused widespread inefficiency, famine, and collapse. Central planning's failure underscores the importance of diversity and adaptability in complex systems. Uniformity may appear efficient, but it cannot withstand the shocks and randomness of reality. In your own life, variation is a critical tool for growth. Start by exposing yourself to new experiences and challenges. Travel to unfamiliar places, not just for leisure, but to immerse yourself in different cultures, perspectives, and ways of life. Each new environment broadens your understanding, forces you to adapt, and strengthens your ability to handle unfamiliar situations. Meeting people with opposing views offers a similar benefit. Engaging in meaningful conversations with those who challenge your assumptions sharpens your thinking, fosters empathy, and opens doors to new ideas. Variation also applies to how you approach learning and creativity. Experiment with diverse activities, even those outside your comfort zone. If you're an artist, try learning a scientific discipline. If you're a data analyst, explore writing or performing music. These cross-disciplinary experiments stimulate your brain, creating connections that lead to innovation. History is filled with examples of polymaths, individuals like Leonardo da Vinci, who thrived by combining knowledge from varied fields. Da Vinci's mastery of art, anatomy, and engineering was born from his relentless curiosity and exposure to diverse experiences. The benefits of variation extend to your routines and habits. A rigid schedule may feel efficient, but over time, it stifles creativity and adaptability. Introduce deliberate randomness into your life. Take a different route to work. Try a new cuisine, or learn a skill unrelated to your current goals. These small changes spark curiosity, prevent stagnation, and prepare you to adapt when unexpected disruptions occur. Financial decisions also benefit from variation. Diversifying your investments across asset classes, industries, and markets reduces risk and increases your chances of weathering economic volatility. By contrast, concentrating your resources in a single investment or market makes you highly vulnerable to shocks. Variation spreads your exposure, ensuring that you can adapt and thrive even in uncertain conditions. The takeaway is clear. Uniformity may feel comfortable and efficient, but it leaves you fragile and unprepared for life's inevitable randomness. Seek variation in your routines, experiences, and ideas. Embrace the discomfort of the unfamiliar, the challenge of opposing perspectives, and the uncertainty of new opportunities. Variation is not just about survival, it is the path to growth, creativity, and strength. The more you expose yourself to the unexpected, the more resilient and anti-fragile you become. Lesson 9. Beware of experts. Experts often project an air of certainty, but Taleb warns that this confidence frequently masks an inability to account for the complexity and randomness of the real world. The danger lies in their overestimation of their knowledge and the underestimation of uncertainty. This overconfidence has led to catastrophic failures in fields ranging from finance to medicine, where reliance on flawed predictions and models has harmed individuals and destabilized systems. Taleb critiques this blind faith in expertise, urging you to question authority and rely on your own judgment, tempered by experience and a healthy respect for randomness. The 2008 financial crisis stands as a glaring example of the failures of expertise. Financial analysts and economists, armed with complex risk models and academic credentials, assured the public and policymakers that the housing market was stable. Their models, however, ignored the unpredictable variables of human behavior and systemic complexity. When the crisis hit, it became evident that these experts had not only failed to foresee the collapse, but had actively contributed to its fragility. Taleb uses this event to expose the fallacy of trusting expertise without scrutiny, showing that even the most credentialed individuals can make disastrous errors when they ignore randomness. This critique resonates with Daniel Kahneman's findings in Thinking, Fast and Slow. Kahneman explains how cognitive biases, like overconfidence and the illusion of control, skew the judgment of even the most knowledgeable professionals. Experts, blinded by their training and narrow focus, often overlook the larger, chaotic forces at play. Kahneman's research reveals that many expert predictions, whether in finance, politics, or medicine, perform no better than random guesses. This failure underscores the need to approach expertise with skepticism and humility, recognizing its limitations. History offers further proof of the pitfalls of blind trust in experts. Consider the infamous dietary guidelines of the mid-20th century, which demonized fats and promoted a high-carbohydrate diet based on flawed studies and the confident assertions of nutritionists. These recommendations contributed to a surge in obesity and chronic diseases, illustrating how misplaced faith in expert opinion can have devastating long-term consequences. Similarly, experts in medicine once widely endorsed practices like bloodletting, now known to be harmful. These examples remind you that expertise, while valuable, is not infallible and must always be questioned. Taleb's critique is not an outright rejection of experts, but a call to balance their guidance with your own critical thinking and direct experience. Experts can offer insights and data, but only you can discern what works in your specific context. Cultivate what Taleb calls street smarts, the practical wisdom that comes from interacting with reality rather than abstract models. This wisdom allows you to spot flaws, adapt to changing circumstances, and navigate uncertainty more effectively than blind adherence to expert advice ever could. Practical examples of street smarts abound. Entrepreneurs, for instance, often succeed not by following the textbook advice of business consultants, but by experimenting, failing, and adapting to real-world conditions. Consider Steve Jobs, who famously ignored market research and expert predictions when developing revolutionary products like the iPhone. His reliance on intuition, experience, and an understanding of human behavior, rather than expert consensus, transformed industries and reshaped the way people live. To apply this lesson, question authority in all forms. When an expert offers advice or makes a prediction, ask yourself, what are their assumptions? What are the limitations of their knowledge? What variables might they be overlooking? Seek wisdom through direct experience, trial and error, and observation. For example, if a financial advisor recommends a particular investment strategy, take the time to understand the risks and explore alternative approaches rather than accepting their advice at face value. Your takeaway is clear. Don't place blind trust in experts. While their knowledge can guide you, it is not a substitute for your own judgment and critical thinking. Cultivate the humility to question their assumptions and the courage to rely on your experience. Expertise has its limits, but your ability to adapt, question, and learn through direct engagement with reality is limitless. Beware of experts, not to dismiss them, but to protect yourself from their blind spots and overconfidence. Conclusion: Antifragility is your secret weapon for navigating life's chaos. By embracing stressors, decentralizing power, taking responsibility, and rejecting the illusion of control, you transform randomness into an ally. The barbell strategy, variation, and learning through subtraction empower you to build a life that gains from uncertainty. Related books like Black Swan by Taleb himself or Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl deepen your understanding of resilience and adaptability. Your task is simple: but not easy. Thrive in disorder, reject fragility, and embrace the anti-fragile mindset. The future will always remain uncertain, but your potential to grow stronger in its wake is limitless. The end.